I've never been good at being the kind of person who trusts too easily. Not since I was a kid. People come and go. They promise things they can't keep, and eventually they always disappoint. But then he came into my life. I remember the first time we met. It was on a rainy day. A day when the world felt like it was trying to wash away everything, including me. His name was Mark, and he wasn't like the others. I was 23 when I first met him, standing by the window of the cafe I often went to, watching the world outside in a dull blur. My name's Emma. A quiet, reserved girl who had gotten used to being alone. I'd long since given up on romance. The idea of love was just something that belonged in the movies, but life, real life, was harsh, cold, and indifferent. I had just taken a sip of my coffee when the door swung open, the bell above it chiming softly. I didn't pay much attention until I noticed someone standing at the counter, asking for a coffee to go. His voice was smooth, low, and almost comforting, in a way that made the whole room feel smaller, safer. He turned to leave, and that's when our eyes met. His gaze lingered on me just a moment longer than it should have. I quickly turned away, feeling heat rise to my cheeks. I could feel the sudden, unexpected pull in my chest, the way my heart started to beat faster for no real reason. I should have been annoyed, should have been more cautious. But instead, I found myself drawn to him. Something in his smile made me lower my guard. "Hey," he said, his voice like a whisper as he walked up to my table. "Mind if I join you?" I looked up, startled. I guess not." He slid into the chair across from me, an easy smile playing at his lips. "I'm Mark." "Emma," I replied, still not sure what was happening. And that was the start of everything. Our dates were simple at first. Walks through the park, dinners at small restaurants that had an old-fashioned charm, coffee in places like the one we met. Everything felt easy with him. Too easy, maybe. He was everything I didn't know I wanted. Gentle, kind, attentive. He listened when I talked, looked at me as though I mattered. But there was something odd about him. Something I couldn't quite place. I would catch him staring off into the distance, lost in thought, like there was something on his mind. And sometimes when I asked him about it, he would just shake it off with a smile. "Nothing to worry about," he'd say, and I believed him. Yet there were moments when his eyes seemed distant, like he was seeing things that weren't there. Or worse, things he didn't want me to know. A few weeks in, I invited him to my apartment. We sat on the couch, watching an old movie I loved, but I couldn't focus. There was an unease in the air, something that pressed against my ribs. The room felt too small for the things that were left unsaid between us. "Do you believe in fate?" he asked me suddenly, his voice soft, as if testing the waters. I blinked, unsure of where this was coming from. Fate? I don't know. I think we make our own choices. He nodded slowly, but there was something in his expression that didn't quite sit right. I used to think the same, that everything was just a series of random events. But sometimes I wonder if certain things happen for a reason. I laughed, trying to ease the tension. Are you trying to tell me that we were meant to meet? He paused, his gaze dropping to his hands. Maybe. I don't know. But sometimes, I feel like I was supposed to find you. Like there's something here, something important I haven't figured out yet. I didn't know how to respond to that. Part of me wanted to brush it off as some romantic nonsense. But there was another part of me that felt like maybe, just maybe, he wasn't completely wrong. A few days later, Mark invited me to his apartment. I had never been there before, but something about the way he spoke about it made me curious. When I arrived, the place seemed normal enough, modern, minimalist, clean. But there was an air of sterility to it, like it was too perfect, too empty. I sat down on the couch, my eyes scanning the space. The silence between us felt strange, and I suddenly realized how little I knew about him. I had never asked about his past, his family, or what he did for work. It was as if he had constructed a life around me. A life where everything was just right, but not quite real. Emma, his voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned to see him standing in front of me, his eyes searching mine, like he was trying to see into my soul. There's something I need to tell you. I felt my heart race. His face was pale, his expression unreadable. I'm not who you think I am, he said quietly, his voice barely a whisper. I froze, confused. What do you mean? What do you mean you're not who I think you are? He took a deep breath, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. I've been lying to you, Emma. About everything. About myself. I stood up, feeling a wave of panic wash over me. What are you talking about? I'm not Mark, he said, his voice cracking. I'm not even human. I took a step back, my mind trying to process what he was saying. What do you mean you're not human? I whispered, feeling my knees weaken. Emma, I never wanted you to find out this way. But I'm not from this world. He stopped, taking a shaky breath. I'm from somewhere else. Somewhere far away. And I've been sent here for a reason. I couldn't breathe. My thoughts were a whirlwind, spinning out of control. None of this made sense. He couldn't be telling me the truth. Could he? But then something clicked. I remembered those moments when he seemed distant, as if he wasn't fully here. Those odd conversations, the things he said that never quite made sense. I felt the ground beneath me shift, and I realized I didn't know him at all. But just as I was about to ask him more, he cut me off. I didn't come here to hurt you. I never wanted to, Emma. But there's something more. Something about you. I could feel the weight of his words pressing down on me. And that's when I realized it wasn't just him who had been hiding something. It was me too. You're not what you seem either, are you? He asked softly, his eyes not leaving mine. I felt a chill run through me. What do you mean? The way you can never remember certain things. The way time sometimes feels like it slips away from you. The way you've always felt like you don't belong here. You're not like them, are you? Like me. I stared at him, my mind racing. How could he know? It's true, I whispered, my voice barely audible. I've always felt out of place. But I thought I was just broken. Just a little bit lost. I didn't know. He reached out to me, his hand trembling. I know, Emma. You're not broken. You're different like me. And together, we can figure out why we're here. Why we found each other. I don't know when it happened. When everything went from something strange and unsettling to something that felt like truth. But I knew one thing. Everything had changed. What I thought was a simple love story, one where two people could come together and create something beautiful, had turned into something far more complicated. And I realized as I sat there with Mark, my alien, my mirror, that this wasn't just about love. This was about discovering who we really were. About uncovering the truth that had been hidden from us both. For reasons we couldn't yet understand. We were both searching for answers, and now, we had to search together. And whatever we found, I knew one thing for sure. We wouldn't face it alone. I don't remember how long we sat there, the silence between us thick with unspoken questions. My mind was reeling, trying to grasp everything Mark had just told me. I didn't know what to believe. The rational part of me screamed that this couldn't be real, that he couldn't be whatever it was he was claiming to be. And yet, there was something in his eyes that made my heart believe him. I had known Mark for weeks now, and in that time, he'd become a part of my world in ways I couldn't explain. But what if everything about him, the way he smiled, the way he cared for me, was a lie? What do you mean we're like each other? I finally managed to ask, my voice shaky. Mark shifted, his face growing even more somber. He reached for my hand, but I instinctively pulled it away. Not because I didn't want him to touch me, but because I wasn't sure I could handle the weight of his words right now. I wasn't supposed to tell you this so soon, but I couldn't keep it from you anymore. You deserve to know the truth. Mark said, his voice filled with an urgency I hadn't heard before. You've felt it too, haven't you? The moments when time seems to slip away. The flashes of memories that don't belong to you. The way you can sometimes feel like you're not in control of your own thoughts. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I thought it was just me being messed up in the head. Mark leaned forward, his expression so serious it almost frightened me. No, Emma. You're not crazy. You're different. Like me. I'm not human, but neither are you. You've always known, haven't you? Something deep inside of you told you that you weren't meant to be here. I'm not sure how, but I think you're part of something bigger than this world. And I'm not the only one who's been sent to find you. My stomach twisted at his words, but I couldn't look away from his gaze. There was an intensity there, an honesty that made my chest ache with something I couldn't quite name. Was it fear? Hope? Or maybe a strange kind of relief? I don't understand, I whispered. He nodded, his eyes softening. I know this is a lot to take in. But trust me, Emma. The reason you feel like you don't belong, it's because you don't. Not in the way you think. You and I were sent here, born here, for a reason. And now that we've found each other, we need to figure out what that reason is. I leaned back against the couch, my mind spiraling with 1,000 thoughts. I couldn't keep up. Every part of me wanted to deny what he was saying, wanted to laugh it off as some kind of sick joke. But then I remembered everything I had felt. The strange sense of displacement, the unsettling dreams that never quite left me. My entire life had felt like a puzzle that couldn't quite come together. And now Mark was telling me that it was because I wasn't meant to fit in. What do we do now? I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. Mark exhaled slowly, his eyes narrowing slightly as he processed my question. We figure it out. Together. I've spent years trying to understand why I'm here, but I couldn't get far without you. You're the key, Emma. I can feel it. And once we understand why we're here, we'll be able to unlock the answers to everything. I looked at him, my heart pounding in my chest. For a moment, it felt like the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for me to say something, to decide what I was going to do. My mind was a chaotic mess of confusion and fear, but one thing stood out clearly. No matter how strange or impossible it sounded, I trusted him. I'm scared, I admitted, my voice cracking. Mark's face softened, and he reached for my hand again, this time more gently. I know. I'm scared too. But we're in this together. And we're not alone. There's more of us out there. We just have to find them before it's too late. I nodded slowly, my heart heavy with the weight of what he was asking me to do. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, images of strange places flashed through my mind. A world I didn't recognize, filled with people who weren't like me. Or maybe they were. The next day, Mark came by my apartment early in the morning. He was wearing a dark jacket and carrying a small, worn leather bag that I hadn't noticed before. "I think it's time," he said, his voice low, almost reverent. "We can't stay here. There's something about this place, this city, that isn't safe anymore. We've been watched, Emma. From the beginning." "Watched?" I repeated, my heart skipping a beat. He nodded grimly. "I don't know who they are, but they've known about you for a long time. They've been tracking you ever since you were born. And now they know that I found you." I felt my blood run cold. "Who's been tracking me?" Mark's eyes hardened, his lips tight. "The same people who sent me here. They're not all friendly, Emma. Some of them want to use you. They'll stop at nothing to get to you before we figure out why you're here." I swallowed, my mouth dry. "So what do we do?" "We run," he said simply. We didn't have much time. Mark packed the few things he thought we'd need. Some clothes, a few documents, a phone. And we left my apartment without a single glance back. I felt a wave of panic rise in my chest as we walked out into the early morning light. I wasn't ready for this. I didn't know what I was getting into, or if I was even strong enough to face whatever was waiting for me. But I couldn't go back now. The city looked different somehow as we walked through its streets. It was still the same buildings, same people. But it felt like we were on the outside of it now, like we no longer belonged here. Mark led me to a car parked around the corner, and we drove in silence for hours, heading toward an unknown destination. I could feel my mind racing, my thoughts whirling with everything I'd just learned. What did he mean by the others? Why had they been watching me? And what was it that made me so different? "I know it's a lot, Emma," Mark said after a while, breaking the silence. "But we're almost there. We'll be safe for now. And then, we'll figure out what we need to do next." I nodded, though I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel anything but dread. Mark reached over, taking my hand again, his grip firm but comforting. "I'm not going to let anything happen to you. We'll face whatever comes together. I promise." His words should have reassured me, but they only made the fear grow. We were in this together. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that together might not be enough. As the hours passed, I felt like I was slipping into a dream, a place where reality was hard to find. Every turn, every stop, Felt like it was leading us deeper into a world I didn't understand. And soon I realized something. I didn't know who I could trust anymore. Not even Mark. We were both running from something. But the real question was, what were we running toward? The answers were just out of reach, and I had no idea what would happen when we finally found them. I had always believed that the truth would set me free, that if I could only understand what was happening, if I could just piece the puzzle together, it would all make sense. But the closer we got to the truth, the more fragmented everything became. I realized I wasn't just running from the unknown anymore. I was running from myself. We had been driving for hours, heading deeper into a world I never thought existed. Mark hadn't said much since we left the city. He seemed lost in his own thoughts, his hands gripped tightly on the steering wheel, his eyes focused ahead. I couldn't help but watch him, trying to see past the calm exterior to the person he really was. The person who had once seemed so perfect, so safe. Now I couldn't shake the feeling that the deeper I got into this, the more lost I became. Mark, I finally whispered, my voice trembling. Are we ever going to stop running? He glanced at me briefly, his expression unreadable, before turning his eyes back to the road. I don't know, he said quietly. But we have to keep moving until we understand what's going on. Until we understand you. I bit my lip, feeling that familiar anxiety gnawing at me. You keep saying that. But I don't understand what you mean. What am I? What's happening to me? Mark slowed the car as we turned off the highway. The sound of gravel crunching under the tires breaking the silence between us. The air outside had started to cool, and the sky was darkening into twilight. There's a place, Mark said, his voice low and steady. A place where we can find the answers. A place where others like us have gone. We've been hiding for too long, Emma. But now, we can't keep running from the truth. We can't hide anymore. I felt my chest tighten. The fear that had been gnawing at me for days now seemed to swell in my chest, suffocating me. I'm not ready for this, I whispered. Mark pulled the car to a stop and turned toward me. His eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't quite place. I know. But we don't have a choice. We have to face it. All of it. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. I was terrified. I was confused. I didn't know what was real anymore, or who I could trust. But Mark had been with me this whole time. He had always been by my side, even when everything seemed impossible. And right now, I had no other choice but to trust him. The place Mark brought me to was a secluded cabin on the edge of a dense forest. It looked unassuming, ordinary even, but something about it felt different. The air was thick with secrets, The kind that weighed heavily on your chest and made it hard to breathe. I've been here before, Mark said, breaking the silence as he opened the car door and stepped outside. This is where I first found out the truth. Where I learned who I am. Where I found out who you are. I followed him out of the car, the cold night air biting at my skin. What does that mean? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Mark didn't answer right away. Instead, he led me inside the cabin. It was small, with a worn leather couch and a fireplace in the corner. But what caught my attention was the large wooden table in the center of the room, covered in maps, old books, and strange symbols that I couldn't even begin to understand. Mark gestured for me to sit down, and I obeyed, my heart racing. I was so close to the truth, but with every step I took toward it, I felt like I was sinking deeper into a darkness I couldn't escape. Emma, Mark said softly, sitting across from me. There's something you need to know about yourself. Something I've known for a long time, but I didn't want to tell you until you were ready. I looked up at him, my breath caught in my throat. What do you mean? What aren't you telling me? Mark reached for one of the books on the table and opened it to a page filled with strange writing. You're not from here, Emma. Not like me. But you're not fully human either. You were sent here, just like I was. But unlike me, you've been hiding your true nature. You've been suppressing it your whole life, trying to live as if you're just like everyone else. I felt my stomach twist as the words sank in. No, I whispered, shaking my head. That's not possible. I'm not. Mark's eyes softened. I know this is hard to accept, but you are different. You always have been. Your memories, they're not your own. Your past, it's a lie. Someone created you, Emma, just like they created me. We're part of something bigger than ourselves, something far beyond this world. I stared at him in disbelief, my hands trembling. What are you saying? That I'm some kind of experiment? A clone? Mark shook his head. Not exactly. You were created for a purpose, just like I was. But the people who sent us here, they've been hiding things from us. They've been using us, manipulating us for reasons we don't fully understand. I stood up, unable to sit still anymore. No, this can't be true. I'm not an experiment. I'm not a project. You are, Emma. But you're also more than that, Mark said, standing up to face me. You've been searching for the truth your whole life, haven't you? That feeling that something was off, that you didn't quite belong here. It was because you didn't. You were always meant for something else. I felt a coldness in my veins as the pieces of this strange puzzle started to come together. But if I'm not human, then what am I? Mark took a step closer, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite decipher. You're something called a transcendent, a being born from the fusion of different realities, different dimensions. You're part of something, a plan. You were sent here to awaken, to help bridge the worlds together, to bring balance. But that's why the others are hunting you. They want to control you. They want to control us. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run away, to pretend this wasn't happening. But deep down I knew it was all true. The truth had been right there in front of me the whole time, hidden beneath the surface of my ordinary life. What now? I asked, my voice shaking. What am I supposed to do with all of this? Mark stepped forward, his gaze never leaving mine. You have to remember who you are, Emma. You have to unlock the power that's inside of you. It's the only way we can stop them. The only way we can survive. I swallowed hard, looking into his eyes. The man I thought I knew, my comfort, my safety, was no longer the person standing in front of me. But his words, his conviction, they pulled me in. I don't know if I can do this, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You don't have to do it alone, Mark replied, taking my hand. We're in this together. And no matter what happens, I'll be here. Always. The cabin grew silent as Mark and I sat together, the weight of our shared fate heavy in the air. There was no going back now. The truth had been revealed, and the road ahead was uncertain. But one thing was clear. I had a choice. And it was up to me whether I would face the unknown with fear or embrace it with strength. And so we waited. For the answers. For the next step. For the world to change. And together, we prepared for whatever came next.